Welcome to a very special episode of BlokeBusters. This is something that we actually recorded over a year ago, and for one reason or another we never actually got around to putting it out. So please sit back and relax as you listen to us, about a year or so ago, discussing Sherlock.
Welcome to the BlokeBusters podcast. I'm Brian.
And I'm Paul.
And today we're going to be discussing a film-like, show.
Yeah.
I think we can get by on a loophole there.
Feature-length, we can say.
Feature-length TV show known simply as Sherlock.
Sherlock, yes.
The BBC series.
Yeah, the BBC newest, I guess I'd say, adaptation of the Sherlock Holmes stories. Starring someone that you might know of, if you listen to us at all.
Yeah.
Mr. Benedict Cumberbatch. And I think what we're going to start with here is just saying how we got into Sherlock in the first place. This is going to be mostly talking about the third season. So, if you're listening to this and you still haven't watched the third season and you don't want us to spoil it, watch it. Mm-hmm. Tell us why it took you so long, and then get back to us.
Yes. You have it's 4.5 hours. That's all you need. 4.5 hours to watch the season.
You can do it in an afternoon.
Come on.
Right, I guess you should go first then.
It's hard to pinpoint, as we were discussing right before we started recording. I think it must have been mid to late 2010 for me. Right. Whenever I know that. I think it was through Netflix that I saw it. Whenever it first became available. I don't know, which seems early for me for that to be on Netflix, though.
I don't know.
Something about that timeline doesn't
Well, it could be at the end of 2010 for you.
Yeah.
Because obviously it would have come over here and then, PBS, I guess?
Yes, because I think I had roughly about a year wait before the season 2 came out. Because I didn't...
So the end of 2010 would make more sense then.
Yeah, because I was like, 2 years, but, I already... been through a year of it.
Yeah.
Because, things get over here late, that originate there, and vice versa. But, so I think it was through the Netflix that I watched the first season, kind of on a whim, this looks interesting, adaptation. And I wasn't a huge fan of the Robert Downey Jr. film.
Right.
I think there was only one of them at the time.
Yeah.
And I thought that was it just missed with me. I know a lot of people love that movie and love both of those movies, but it just, for being an RDJ apologist, I wasn't just in on that for some reason. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
Didn't strike with me. So I was like, I'll give this a try. And as everyone should, fell in love with it. If you have another response, first of all, you shouldn't be listening to a podcast about a film or about a series you don't like.
Yeah, true.
But that is the only acceptable reaction to watching these, as I felt. So then I do believe that we were discussing. I think I told the Englishman about it.
Yes. While all of this Sherlock stuff was going on, I was in the process of sorting out my visa to come here, and then coming over here, but then having to go back, and then waiting and all that. Yeah. So I wasn't watching BBC at the time that Sherlock came out. I also wasn't paying that much attention to the social media side, which I will say was less vigorous about it than they are now. It was definitely sort of a slow build, as it were. And then when I did come over and I started working for the same company my colleague here works at, and he started telling me about it. So I found it on Netflix and watched the first season. I then went online, found the next 3 episodes, and watched
Bloody bastard. When someone throws you a bone as beautiful as Sherlock, then you just go ahead and jump ahead of them in the canon.
I didn't spoil anything for you.
No.
So, yeah, it was one of those ones where, kind of like, for me, in England, the thing that was closest was when I first watched the television series of Ghost in the Shell, which is an anime. I watched the first episode and was kind of, yeah, that's alright. And then I went back to it a couple of weeks later, watched the first episode again, and then the second episode, and I then promptly ran down the shops and bought all 4 volumes that were available at the time. And then I reached the point of kind of like this, but less time, where I had to wait for the next volume to come out, and then the next volume. So it was one of those ones where it just kind of clicked. It was like, this is good. This is some of the best writing, and
every aspect of it just felt right.
Yeah, it was solid show. Like, I can't...
And I'll go so far as to say, like, making a parallel to the love of... Well, I guess I can tie in Benedict Cumberbatch here. There is a connection with loving the new Star Trek films, never having been a Star Trek fan.
Right.
Myself. Like, I maybe had seen Wrath of Khan, but really didn't remember a whole lot of it other than Khan.
Yes. Everyone knows that. Even people that don't like
hot dogs or whatever, yeah. But, so not really coming into it as a, having no allegiance to the canon or anything like that, just enjoying them for the wonderful films they are.
Yeah.
Much in the same way as Sherlock, I don't ever really recall watching any shows that were Sherlock related or films that it wasn't on my radar. Like,
right.
And I don't know what struck me about wanting to watch this. I don't know, something about the art of the box or whatever. I'm like, this looks good. I can watch this and it's Netflix, you don't like it, you can turn it off, stream something else. But there was no need to turn it off. So I don't know, like, if you had a lot of love of the Sherlock genre as a...
I can't say that outside of the Sherlock Holmes films that I really knew much about Sherlock.
You're referring to which Sherlock Holmes
I'm
films?
Referring to the Robert Downey Jr.
Okay.
And I guess technically...
Because wasn't there a TV film? I'm sure there's been multiple TV films.
There were several. Like the Basil Rathbone would be the sort of ultimate Sherlock for most people outside of this Sherlock.
Yeah.
And I would say, going back to my childhood, my first introduction to Sherlock Holmes was Basil the Great Mouse Detective. And obviously that isn't Sherlock Holmes, but it's kind of a kid introduction to that type of thing. And then I saw the Robert Downey Jr. and I thought, this is alright. I kind of like this. And I liked the second one more than the first one, which doesn't happen very often. And I thought he did a good job at getting the Sherlock that is entirely logical down, but I couldn't see Sherlock as quite acting the same way that Robert Downey Jr. had him going in the film. There was something quite off about it. Can't put my finger on it. And then we saw this version of Sherlock, which is the modern telling of it, and it just seemed to click. Like it was the quick wit of Sherlock with he's clearly the smartest person in the room,
with the disdain for modern society or just anyone
with those slight deficits that people
social awkwardness it was just perfect.
Whereas like, the Robert Downey Jr. one, he's not necessarily socially awkward, he's just smarter. So I think that was what was missing.
He's more of a charmer, I thought. Robert Downey Jr. is just more of a charmer and can win over the room. Where Sherlock, everyone just feels kind of weird around because he's weird.
He's weird, but he knows more about you than anyone else probably, just from watching you walk across the room.
Just from inspecting your jacket.
So it was something that just kind of draws you in. I will say my wife doesn't want to watch it, mainly because she watched the opening 5 minutes of the first episode and didn't see Sherlock at all, because he's not actually on screen in the first 5 minutes of the first episode, and she couldn't connect to the show through that, and she didn't want to continue watching it. I have tried to get her to watch it again,
yes.
but I'm willing to admit that I'm probably not going to win that battle. But then again, she's not necessarily the biggest fan of Benedict Cumberbatch outside of Sherlock either. So I think
you can only show people, the light of Benedict Cumberbatch. They have to allow Benedict Cumberbatch into their hearts, and accept him as the one true God.
Exactly.
So anyway, apart from those that are just refusing to see the light.
Yeah, I mean, going into the first couple of seasons quickly, because we're going to focus mostly on the third. The first season was just solid, and the lead up to the final episode where you got to meet Moriarty.
Yes.
Which, being anyone that knows anything about Sherlock, Moriarty is the anti-Sherlock.
Yes. He is his Lex Luthor.
Yes. We got to see him, and he was played brilliantly by someone that you just don't see that type of villain very often.
No, and
he just doesn't care.
And the voice just pulls you in. I don't know his normal speaking voice, but it is just so melodic and just pulls you in to his insanity.
He's got a very sing-songy regular tone, and then he can just snap.
Oh, Sherlock. I just love listening to him talk. Or did. Spoiler.
Well,
or maybe not.
Maybe.
We will see. Yeah.
Going into the second season, the first season was a good cliffhanger.
Yes, that was all the yes.
One of those things where since it's a cliffhanger, there's going to be a second season, therefore they're going to get out of it.
Yeah, but you still wonder how the hell are they going to get out of it?
And then they come back, and some that are outside of Sherlock might say a bit of an anticlimactic resolution to it, but then as it goes in and you realise exactly what it was, it was a fantastic resolution to that particular scene, and it perfectly bleeds into the second season. And the second season was just more of the same, just fantastic. Did a brilliant send-up of the old stories and modernising them. And then the last episode of the second season, it ends up with Sherlock and Moriarty on a roof. And anyone that knows anything about the canon of Sherlock, and it's called the Rhinebark Fall. The Rhinebark Falls being the waterfall where Sherlock and Moriarty dive off to their apparent deaths in the books. And so, going into this episode, probably at least one of them will die. And then you see Moriarty, and again, spoiler, really don't listen if you haven't seen it. Moriarty corners Sherlock so much that Sherlock needs to jump off the end of the building, otherwise everyone he knows will die. And then Sherlock points out that as long as Moriarty is still alive, he can get him to call them off if he can figure out a way. So Moriarty then decides, okay, and shoots himself in the head. Therefore, meaning that Sherlock has to
go through it,
go off and jump off. And then he does so. John sees him on the ground. He gets rushed into hospital, and then you see his grave with John standing over it. And the very final shot of the final episode, you see John walking away from the grave, and you see Sherlock by a tree. And so it's, okay, what? And that leads perfectly into the first episode of the third season, where you find out that, yes, indeed, Sherlock is alive, and he's been off doing stuff for 2 years, which I thought was a fantastic link into how long it takes to make these seasons, is that he has been away for 2 years. On screen as well as in the show. So it was a nice little thing. And what I thought was fantastic was the preview images that they set out for the third season, where you got to see Watson with the moustache.
Oh, see, I didn't see any of that. Yeah.
You didn't see that?
No.
There was a picture released of Watson with the moustache that he had at the beginning of the third season. And there were all of these fantastic little things that were, the fans just took it and ran with it, saying that the first time Sherlock meets John, it's going to be John saying, "Sherlock, I thought you were dead," and then Sherlock just ... Like, what's the matter? ... But how did you get back? Are you really going to keep that moustache? And that kind of is what happened. It was a brilliant lead up to it, because you got to see the new woman in John's life, played brilliantly by his real life partner, and you got to see Sherlock trying to figure out, well, how am I going to best come about showing John that I am still alive?
Well, it just shows you that he just is not tapped into the social norms and mores at all. Where he thinks, like where he's telling Mycroft, who frees him, from this terrorist cell or whatever, that I think I'll surprise him. He'll love to see me, and are you sure?
Yeah,
because he just does not get that. Yes, you've hurt him. You've been dead for 2 years. In his mind, you were 100% dead.
It's the line as
surprise.
well.
Yeah.
There's a line from Mycroft where he says, like, John's been getting on with his life, and Sherlock just replies, "What life? I've been away."
So how egocentric he is, and just no concept of how he has hurt his friend, or and just I'll just pop in at a restaurant and say, do this whole little disguise with the French, accent and the mustache, and
and it was based on the Sherlock we knew before. It was like, it doesn't shock us that Sherlock did this, but it was a fantastic reaction from John.
Yeah, it's how you would react. That you would be pissed the fuck off.
What I was going to say, in the books, Watson fainted when Sherlock came back. And
so this is quite following the books then,
like the series follows really closely the books. The way that it works there is they're willing to tweak it to make it more modern, and John beating up Sherlock in response to him for actually being alive after 2 years. That's probably what a war veteran would do.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, my favourite just little running clip in the entire third season was just that thing of, you see John snap in the restaurant, and then they are then in a diner somewhere talking, followed by snaps again, and so they end up in a kebab shop. And it's wonderful just how they keep cutting away.
Yeah. Well, let's not forget that Sherlock interrupted a very meaningful proposal.
Yes.
Like right at the critical moment,
He just got in there. And also, I don't know if you noticed it, if you rewatched it and noticed it, or the first time, when Sherlock looks at Mary and you see all the words floating around.
I freeze-framed that.
Did you see liar in there a couple of times?
Yeah. Oh, no, anytime that happens, I freeze-frame and go through, and there's a lot of repetition, but there's...
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's fun to see that Sherlock himself noticed it, but doesn't pick up on it. Like, it didn't sink into him, except when you saw later on that he started to see things in there that weren't quite fitting, even though he didn't figure it out until the almost fatal moment later in the series. Yeah. So, it was a fantastic idea. I thought it was one of the few things that was really different in the book, in that Mary is not a supporting character in this. Like, she is very much a main character, which I liked. Like, what did you think about the Mary character?
Well, I just didn't really care for her in that first episode. I don't know. I just thought she was a little drab, a little boring, and there wasn't a lot for her to do other than be, kind of the catalyst for getting Holmes and Watson back together. Yeah. She's like, "Don't worry, Sherlock, I'll work on him." But in episode 2, I just wanted to say, you're usually the one that catches all these things and analyzes everything. Yeah. But when I think they said it once or twice, or Sherlock said it once or twice when he's going through his deductions, that someone has gone to great lengths to make themselves be able to be at this wedding. Yeah. And I immediately thought Mary. I'm like, oh, it's Mary. And then you find out it's the photographer. Yeah. But I'm like, no, it's still Mary. Yeah. So I held on to that. I'm like, no. Something's rotten in Denmark, because that is, what greater links are there to go to than convincing, you love this person and then eventually having real love for them, as they find out. But I'm going to infiltrate myself, and get married to this person, But, then they kind of pawn it off. Oh, it's the photographer that's, that's worked his way into this wedding. But, yeah, so I was just, very cautious of her early on, I felt. And, like, when you said it did freeze frame and I did see that wire thing, so I wasn't a fan, I guess you could say.
Right, no, fair enough.
I still don't know if I am.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where they go with the character.
Yeah,
it's almost a little problematic having someone that can go toe to toe with Sherlock. That isn't a main villain.
Yeah,
like someone that is just at Sherlock's level for the most part, being a psychiatrist. So basically, Watson turns into the idiot that needs to have everything described to him by his wife or by Sherlock. So it'll be interesting to see. Maybe they'll work in something where Watson starts to realize this and wants out. But I don't know. Again, speculation on future seasons.
But I do think in that third episode he really should have told her to fuck off. Like, oh no, I accept you, even though you betrayed me and represented yourself falsely the whole time I knew you. Until Sherlock tricked you into being honest, with that little dark hallway thing behind that.
Yeah, I mean that was something actually. So the end of the middle of the third episode. Yeah. Mary is holding what she thinks is Sherlock at gunpoint at the end of a corridor, and then she sees Sherlock behind her, and so she goes, "Oh, it's just a dummy, it's a mannequin." And then you find out that actually it was John.
Yeah, listening to this whole conversation.
And the one thing that I'm surprised never came up after that is that she didn't seem to have either any remorse, or no one pointed out that she was almost willing to shoot her husband that she claimed to genuinely love. And it's like that. You don't see anything in her face of "I almost shot you." It's just, "Oh no, now you know who I am."
Yeah, cat's out of the bag.
Yeah. So it's an interesting thing there of maybe she has some of what Sherlock has, which is that she immediately rationalizes, I was never actually going to shoot you unless I knew you were Sherlock, but now you know who I am, I've got to deal with that. Most people would still cling on to the "I almost shot you" part of it.
Yeah, see, that'd be a little tough for me to get over.
But yeah, whatever. So before going to the end of the series here, shall we go into the people of this show? Obviously we've got Benedict Cumberbatch as Sherlock. We have talked at length in other episodes about this guy. You have Martin Freeman as Watson, doing a fantastic job as Watson. I think it's one of the best.
Yes, and I only have Jude Law to compare him against, but still a wonderful.
I've read the first Sherlock book now. I'm slowly getting through the other ones, and Watson at the beginning of the series is the Watson in the book. Like, he is just amazed at everything Sherlock can do and can just be blindsided by some of these insights. And then as it goes on, he starts to expect that from Sherlock, and they really have a respecting relationship. Again, kind of like it is in there, although the Sherlock still doesn't understand some of the other aspects of it. Which, fair enough. I think if you are at this point of intelligence, you are going to lose something. And general social norms, I think, is probably the best thing that he could lose. Especially since it does seem to help him at times. Like, he's, rather than getting caught up in everything that you need to be caught up in a conversation, he is more focused on the stuff that he should be focused on.
And sometimes that leads to him being rude or seemingly rude. But get to the good parts. Get to the details I need to hear.
So
I'm just like the eye rolling when his parents are visiting. He's just listening to their story. Oh, sometimes he loses this. And
one of the things I liked is that they actually got Benedict Cumberbatch's parents in to play Sherlock's parents, and they are actors in their own right. So it was nice that they were able to do that. And so, like the other people in it, you've got Mark Gatiss, the co-creator, co-writer, co-producer, as Mycroft Holmes.
I every time I always say Minecraft. It's just Minecraft Holmes. Yes, because this is not a name that was familiar to me before the show, but I guess it's I don't know if you'd say common, but not out of place.
Not common,
not
but it's an English
name.
It is an English name.
Yeah, Mycroft. So it's like... Or is it like Mike for short? Just a lot of people shorten it to Mike, MYC.
I would imagine, yeah.
Because I think there's a comedian, Mike something, but it's MYC. I don't think he's English, but maybe that's his full name. I don't know. Mycroft. Oh well. But I guess we should probably point out that more intelligent than Sherlock.
Yes. His brother is vastly more intelligent than Sherlock.
Like they have that scene I think in the first episode where he's like, "Oh, can you imagine? Like I didn't." Like Sherlock was the dumb one, in the family or whatever, He's like, oh, I didn't know,
Yeah, we had nothing to compare it to.
Compare ourselves against until we started meeting I forget the derogatory term he uses, sheep or something like that. Yeah. the rest of the populace.
Right. Yeah, it's fantastic because you also realise that Mycroft hasn't lost most of the social stuff that Sherlock has, or at the very least he's better at playing along.
Better at pretending, yes. Better like Dexter, better at just showing that normal front.
Yeah, so it's a great character, and it's one of those things where in the books, he is the guy who is behind a secret club in London who basically run the government, but they don't.
It's something like MI6, but maybe an offshoot.
They don't say that he runs the government, but Sherlock states that they kind of do. Yeah. Whereas in this, obviously, he is the Secret Service. So there's no. Yeah. It doesn't matter how many other people are in the Secret Service. Like Mycroft is the Secret Service. He is the intelligence agency. There's
Mycroft is running. He is the guy to know. Yeah.
And so it's one of those things where Mycroft still there are some areas where Sherlock is in front of Mycroft. Not many, but there's some areas where Sherlock is still ahead of his brother.
Yeah, and I do like those moments where he knows he needs his brother, even though he doesn't want to admit it.
He would never admit it.
Yeah. But I do love that line. I think it was the first one, like, whatever language it was, we're talking, he's like, it was an offshoot of this language and kind of had roots in this language. Yeah. It took me about 4 hours to learn. He's like, you're losing your step. It's all 8. We're all getting old, brother, or something like that. Yeah. Like, 4 hours to learn a language. Yeah.
Yeah. It is fun just to see the interaction between the two of them as well. Yes. It's astonishing to think that these people, with the amount of intelligence they have, are still caught up in your typical brother stuff. And the fun little misdirection as well when they're playing a game in Sherlock's apartment.
Oh, the deduction with the hat.
You see the... Well, there's that, but you see the chess set, and they're sitting over the table.
That was a great perspective shot.
And then they're actually playing Operation.
That was a beautiful shot. It's just using forced perspective to its utmost ability there. Yeah,
and it was one of those ones where you got to see that there was a little playfulness.
Well, I liked his little misdirection with like I said, the game of deduction with the winter hat or whatever.
Yeah.
And he says you're missing the solitude or the solitary, and uses that as pretty much. He says, so why can't he be different than everyone else and still be among everyone else?
Yeah.
Essentially meaning himself. Right. Sherlock, I am different, but I'm fine being around people that are, not like me at all.
Sure, and he was also using it, not sure if you how much they went into it. He was also using it to say that because Mycroft could not understand the fact that the guy was lonely, meant that Mycroft himself was lonely, or at least that's what he was alluding to.
Yeah.
Well, which I thought was fun. I also liked the fact that it was totally rigged because Sherlock knew exactly who that
was. Yes. Absolutely. Huge happening.
Who else? You got Una Stubbs as Mrs. Hudson, which I thought was a really good character, and the amount of backstory they give her in a relatively little amount of screen time. I thought, because you find out in the first episode that Sherlock made sure her husband went to jail and possibly got executed, and then you find out, I think in the third season, that she might have been running this thing that she managed to get out of. And yes, definitely quite alive. Especially, I also liked Magnuson, the villain from the third episode, where he looks at her and finds out in his mind that her biggest weakness was marijuana. So the question is...
in her defense, like, your husband was a druggie or something? No, he just ran a cartel. Like, or something that he wasn't, he just ran the cartel.
Yeah, he was just running it. He wasn't taking it. He was running it.
Yeah, and she's like, what, been a stripper or something? Yeah.
That was one of them, yeah.
Yeah, quite
an exotic dancer, I believe.
An exotic dancer, yes, whatever.
But it was nice that they did that, and I do think probably the cartel was running in marijuana then, because you don't see anything, you don't have any allusions whatsoever to her using marijuana, and yet if that's her pressure point, then that must have had something to do with it. And she's just a brilliant character, and there's the line from Sherlock when John states that Mrs. Hudson should go to a safe place, and Sherlock just said, Mrs. Hudson, leave Baker Street, England would fall.
Yeah.
It's a wonderful little thing to a character that isn't that huge in the books, but they've really made it their own in this, I think. They've done well. I've got Rupert Graves as Lestrade.
Yes.
Lestrade, I think, is kind of the same as he is in the books. He's a detective that... he's good at his job, but he knows that he's not as good as Sherlock, and he needs help from this guy. Even if he's going to get in trouble, he needs the help.
Yes, he's your Commissioner Gordon, essentially. Like, he will do what resources he's allowed, or use what resources he's allowed, but knows when it's time to call in Batman.
Yeah, pretty much. Which is an interesting parallel.
That's, it made sense to me.
Yeah, right.
The guy that can fight, it can kind of not essentially work outside of the law, but has access to other areas, with his intelligence. And
so, although I'm sure someone has done online somewhere an image of this Sherlock and Watson as Batman and Robin.
I'm sure there is fan art somewhere.
To us. Yes, please do.
If you find that. Or create it.
And, this Lestrade, I thought, had a fantastic arc as well in the second season, where it reached the point where everyone is telling him that Sherlock has to actually be the mastermind, which is what led to the ending, and he still doesn't believe it, but he has to act on it. Like that, he doesn't think that Sherlock is behind it, but with all the evidence, there has to be some action from him. So, and then you see him being remorseful about everything, although he still states that, I think it was Anderson, he's saying, like, you're the one that killed him, you're the one that led to it.
Yeah.
And do you know what his first name is? Because Sherlock doesn't seem to know what his first name is. It's Greg or something. Like,
I don't recall.
And then the last one I've got written down, Andrew Scott as Moriarty.
Oh, okay.
And Moriarty was a fantastic villain, and in the third episode of the third season, you got this other villain that seemed to be a next Moriarty.
I thought he was just the epitome of just evil and malice, and someone that's only working for their own gain.
Someone that can actually do anything he wants. He has everything on everyone.
And so, did you know? I forget what they call it, his vault or whatever the name. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking
about. His hidden chamber or whatever. However long did you know that didn't actually exist? Or in any kind of physical sense.
Well, I started to think something was up, especially when they started showing, like, here's the blueprint for the place, and it was like, there isn't anything there. Like,
or with the glasses, how long did you think those were actually special glasses, or that he is like a Terminator?
I mean, the first time when he was using the glasses, I was thinking, okay, it might be the glasses because it's not. You don't see it, and then the second time he starts doing it, it's like, well, maybe it's not the glasses, and like he needs the glasses to see. So maybe that's what it was, and then you saw Sherlock. Testing out the theory.
Glasses. Oh, they're just ordinary glasses.
And so I thought it was a really good way of changing it up, because obviously you see with Sherlock everything's just kind of floating around, whereas with this guy, very methodical, very computer-like. Like, this is how it would be displayed to this guy. It makes sense. Like, this, I see this person. Here's his weakness right underneath him. So
he's. Instead of using it to solve a crime like Sherlock would, he's just knowing it so he can get under your skin, so he can own you. You are under his thumb.
He just wants to live comfortably.
Yeah, so no one will have anything on him. Or, he has everything on you.
Yeah.
So just from meeting you.
So it was a fantastic build-up as well. Like, you got to see a little bit of his influence in the third season, but then the third episode was really focused around him.
You do get to see him at the end of the first. You get to see, they pull in and you see his glasses, and you see about the top third of his face or so, and he's just watching the screen, watching John get pulled out of the fire over and over. Yeah.
Which, again, was a fantastic Mr. X, because did you notice where he's sitting in that scene? He is sitting in the vaults. The vaults that you see in the third one is where he's sitting, watching it. So, and they still play it up for anyone that's not really following along as well, because when they turn up to his house at the end of the third episode, he's using the projector watching a video on just a regular wall. So you're still saying, oh, well, he's brought this up to watch this because he knows they're coming. And then, of course, the big spoiler being that the vaults that he has is entirely in his mind.
It's just like Sherlock's mind palace.
Yeah, basically, if Sherlock has a mind palace, this guy has a mind
city
castle with the keep and everything around it. Like, it's one of those ones where Sherlock has met someone.
One of my favorite scenes is when he just closes his eyes and he just, like, pages through the notes in his head.
Yeah.
He's just like, oh, do I want to go look this up? I'll just look this up back here and this there. Oh, there it is. And he just pulls out the file in his head and reads it. It's just...
Mine's through taking it out of the cabinet, ruffling through, putting it back. Because everything has to be neat and orderly in the way where he left it. And it was a fantastic way to end the series, is you just have this villain who... like, you've had everything coming up. You dealt with Mary, and you've had the establishing of everything in the first episode, and then you just have this guy who, like, how are you going to get over it? Like, everything that you've seen,
very easily and very quickly, as it turns out.
That's the thing. The one thing that nobody, with the exception of Sherlock, even contemplates is that Sherlock is willing to kill him.
Well, Sherlock, I mean, it does show through, even though he is so socially awkward, he does love his friend John. And he shows that he will go to any length to protect him and Mary.
To protect him and the one that John
cares about. It does, not his relationship with Mary. It's he wants to protect their relationship.
I mean, he obviously does respect Mary as well.
But he realizes this is the kind of person that will not stop and will not. There is no winning with him still being around, still being in jail or anywhere. So as long as he's alive, ... Hence, make him not be alive anymore.
And it's just a lovely little line where he just says, like, why do people don't get it? I'm a high-functioning sociopath. He really likes to have that distinction in there.
Yeah. But I was shocked when he pulled that trigger.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming, but the second that he did it, and you saw the reaction of it, it was like, I understand how he got here. There was, and
how was he not shot to pieces then immediately after he shot hit? You know,
I think
like, that is anyone else's, unless Mycroft had orders.
I think Mycroft said at the start not to shoot, and then when he shot, I'm sure the people.
But that is like your trained instinct as an officer or whatever. Is like, oh yeah.
I think the idea, though,
and now he's a defenseless person. Yeah.
He never aimed the gun at the people coming towards him. He only shot Magnuson and then dropped the gun. So you could argue there that because he didn't show any aggression towards the other people.
Yeah.
And then you've got Mycroft yelling, "Don't shoot!" And so, you might think I jumped off the Moriarty bandwagon a little quick there, but at the end of the episode, you see Sherlock being sent away on a mission that Mycroft originally offered him and said, I'm going to offer you something and I want you to decline it because you will die.
Yeah, it's like 2 months or whatever.
I think it's you will last 6 months and you will die. Right? And so
you're not coming back.
And so it ends up being we can't not send Sherlock to jail or something. So by default,
we have a very nice scene though too before Sherlock leaves with Watson, and this is the last time they're going to talk. They know it's the last time they're going to talk to each other.
And what do they talk about? It turns out Sherlock is actually a girl's name. So, naming John's future daughter Sherlock would be a good idea. And so you see Sherlock leaving on this suicide mission, and then you see Moriarty, and it was something that I don't think anyone saw coming. There's no lead up whatsoever to Moriarty being back, and then all of a sudden it's "Did you miss me?" on every screen in Britain.
Well, let's say you don't see him necessarily in the flesh. It is a video.
Technically, you do not see Moriarty standing there saying the words,
so you don't know if this is just a pre-recording or not.
Yeah, but it is Moriarty on every screen in England. Which, how would you pull that off if you weren't up to his level? Going, do you miss me? And so
apparently, the only thing that gets you out of just completely obvious point-blank murder is that you're the only one that can stop a terrorist that no one else can.
No one else was able to stop.
So okay, we'll forgive the murder that we all witnessed.
I mean,
you're not going to be responsible for that.
And it might be something that they could end it with Sherlock coming up with a way of solving this, and they're able to use that as a pardon, as it were, or as a reduced sentence or something. Because obviously everyone in Britain wanted Magnuson gone. But no one could get rid of him.
No, because no one wanted to reveal their skeletons in the closet that he knew about,
Yeah, so it'll be... I'm really looking forward to the next season because, obviously you had the "Did you miss me?" blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the credits, you had Moriarty standing there, staring into character, saying, "Did you miss me?"
Yeah.
So you had the live action one, which does say to me that they might actually go with him coming back.
Which then I don't know. Yeah, how are you explaining that him eating a bullet then?
Well, there's the thing. Moriarty was always ahead of Sherlock. Sherlock believes he was ahead of Moriarty because he knew what would happen. The only thing he didn't anticipate was Moriarty killing himself.
Yeah.
What if Moriarty anticipated that?
What if he was already right in that assumption that he wouldn't kill himself?
Yeah, exactly. There's no... the gun comes from nowhere. He wasn't holding him at gunpoint. He didn't use it beforehand. So how do we know there wasn't a blank in there?
Yeah.
So that obviously.
But wasn't there a lot of blood coming out of him?
There was, but there was a lot of blood coming out of Sherlock.
Well, Yeah.
So
I'm glad you brought that up.
here we go.
Here we go. I did want to get to my beefs with the show, albeit picky and small.
Oh, yeah.
When you have a show that has this production value and this cast and this writing, and it's just phenomenal. And I just want to have that as a disclaimer at the front of this. But
a 40-minute disclaimer.
Yes, exactly. Very 2-sentence comment here. But the faking of the death.
Yes.
My feeling is the writers wrote themselves into a corner and did their best to play it off as like, oh, these are all crackpots theories, but never give you a satisfying answer onto how this was faked, which I need. I need as a viewer. I need to know how it was done. If you're just going to say he faked his death, that doesn't work for me. How did he do it? I mean, the last explanation they give is the most plausible, but still highly unlikely.
Yeah.
With, like, the guy says, how do you know John would stay right there? And how, you got this airbag, you hold the airbag out of the way.
Yeah.
You got some perspective issues there with the building in between the other building. And so he falls out of frame for a second, but you still need a real body. And then you have the face, the Sherlock face. And... all this intricate plan of these people running up and squirting blood on the sidewalk and running away, and I need a reasonable explanation. I don't know. You don't feel that way at all?
Well, I feel that Sherlock obviously had a plan. Mycroft had the plan as well.
And everyone knew but Watson, which Watson is very pissed off about.
Yes.
Your parents knew.
Yeah,
Molly knew.
yes.
Your brother knew. Yeah.
So, I have no problems not actually knowing the exact way it worked. I like the idea that Sherlock keeps trying to tell John, and John doesn't want to know.
Yeah. But doesn't he at the end of that episode want to know? That first episode, he's like...
No, John still... Yeah. John never asks how he did it, and obviously he's telling Anderson how he did it, in quotation marks. Yeah. And the question is, did Sherlock give out how he did it, or did he give out yet another way of how he might have done it? Going along the vein, because you got to see a couple of other ideas as to what might have happened.
Oh yeah, the one with the cardboard cutout or whatever was hilarious. Yeah. And where Moriarty and Sherlock are very secret lovers.
Yeah. And then Anderson quickly says that that's not the case. Like, no. Like, what?
Just as valid as your theories.
I love that they introduced slash fiction into that. I don't know if you know slash fiction.
Well, I know what fan fiction is. That's usually making Star Wars characters hump each other. But
slash fiction is a term for when you have fan fiction about two male or two female characters getting together that wouldn't normally. So it was fantastic that they actually included
like R2-D2 and C-3PO love story.
Kind of, yeah. It'd be more like a...
I'm sure that's out there already.
Yeah, it'd be more like Han and Luke.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That thing. But yeah, it was a great little dig, I think, at all the stuff. And...
I still want to know.
I know, I get it. I get that a lot of people...
when the nature of the show is, like the third act or the end of the third act is, okay, here's Sherlock doing his thing, going through his monologue. This is why you did this, and you thought to do this, and you did it. And when you go to those lengths to explain the entire episode, essentially, what you were actually seeing, and then to just go, oh well, he faked his death. Don't worry about how he did it. That doesn't jive with me.
No, yeah, I understand it. It is a bit of a departure from the norm of the show, but I am perfectly fine not knowing how they did it.
I think they fucked themselves over and didn't know how he could do it. So they're like, well, just make up a whole bunch of idiots' ideas on how he did it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think that it is more acceptable to not know, because anything they could come up with will still have everyone going, but what about this? So what about it? Basically,
well,
I guess
you have a catch-22 there. The only person smart enough to fake the death was Sherlock, so the only one smart enough to figure it out would be Sherlock.
Yeah.
So
he comes up on the thing and he says, from the second I walked out, there were 11 things that I could do, and it's I'm sorry.
Yeah, 13 possibilities.
It's 13 possibilities, but 2 of them he couldn't do because he would have broken something. Gotcha, so 11 plausible things.
Yeah,
and it's like, Really? What? How did
and they give you like
that?
2.
They give you at least 2
valid
starts,
ones. Yeah,
and then they give you the one at the end, and then they also, and then obviously Anderson had the one featuring Darren Brown, who for those of you that don't know,
I had no idea who that was. Yeah,
Darren Brown is the. It's kind of difficult to explain. He isn't a street magician, but he is more of a mind tricks type of guy.
I think he'd probably equate best to, I don't think he's on TV anymore, John Edwards here. John Edwards has had an afternoon show with a psychic type thing where like someone in the audience had a death in family with an R. It was just complete. South Park made fun of it as complete BS. Right, yeah. Or a J.
Yeah.
Was his name RJ? No.
Yeah.
John. Yeah, that was it. John. Yeah. So John died. Yeah. And he just keep going through. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. Is that similar?
Not quite. He is very much against that sort of thing.
Okay.
He does a show where it's a lot of things of he'll have. There's one show he does where he wears a button on his lapel for the entire show, and then during the show he gets people to throw stuff out into the audience, and through, as he says, through slight things in his speech or what he's wearing or things in the set, he'll get people to come to a conclusion of something, and so he'll then get all the stuff, and then at the end he takes off the button, and written on the button is 3 different things that he got the audience to say during the show. Okay. And so it's using mind tricks.
He's a performer,
And he also did a television show where he managed to get someone under a hypnotic suggestion to rob a armoured van at gunpoint. And obviously that was staged.
Oh, but wasn't there? He's not the one. I think he's Scottish though. That had a great special on the Discovery Channel where he implemented someone. I don't think it was this guy.
It wasn't this guy.
He had a sleeper word, and the guy's at a coffee shop, and he went and robbed this place or attempted to. Yeah, it's very similar sounding.
Probably. I mean, this guy.
We need to get off.
He's basically someone that could come up to you and hypnotize you and then implant suggestions stuff like that. But and it was funny that he agreed to do it, because this is something he would never do, but he agreed to be in there. So it was a fun thing, I thought, to come back with 4 different theories on how he did it, and then let the audience decide if any of them were true or not.
Don't let them decide. Here's we got bullshit in this hand and bullshit in that hand and bullshit in this hand. Which bullshit do you want? No, that isn't an option.
Well, I think we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Other very, very, very slight complaint.
Got it.
I wrote this in quotation. Sometimes the show seems too cool for me. I don't know, and I'm going to elaborate on that. If anyone's ever seen, I don't think you ever watched Dexter.
No,
I don't want to go into why I hate the last season, blah blah blah. But the opening of that was too cool. It's very, it's him making breakfast,
right?
But everything has this very violent connotation to it. He's just slicing through this grapefruit and the juice flying over. It's supposed to be blood,
okay.
And then grilling this meat up and tearing into the meat. Very cannibalistic or very just very emoting this kind of violent dark world by using this breakfast preparation, and getting ready. When he ties his shoes, it's and you get this kind of noose or strangling noise, when he does it. So, but it's very fast cuts and very very intricate, and that's how I feel sometimes the show is. You'll get these whooshes or sped up time lapse something, or this audible sound effect of whoosh and the car going down the street and chase and I don't know, sometimes I just think it's a little too clever for its own good.
The thing that I'm thinking of is in the first season when it's the first episode, he's trying to chase the taxi cab, and you see him play through in his head exactly what he's going to do, and it's sped forward. I always imagine that a lot of times when it's like that and you see the reels sped up, it's not necessarily them speeding it up, it's more them showing this is Sherlock's thinking it through, or this is Sherlock's point of view, as it were, through it. So
I do think there's like a lot of jump cuts used, and
there are some,
a lot of editing tricks, like quick, just bang, bang, bang.
True.
And I think sometimes that's needed, and sometimes I think it's just there to make it look cool. That's my feeling. Which, like I said before, minor gripe on an otherwise flawless show, I think. So.
Yeah, it's one of those shows that I
just don't want it to become... I just don't want it to start outsmarting itself, essentially.
Right.
Like, just putting in things that they read on message boards or fan boards, like, just keep what keep it as it is.
I don't think they will. I just think that for this one coming back, it was something where they realized that they would kind of be silly not bringing in a little bit of that. But I think from here on, now that they've done that, they're probably not going to do that again. I think they have a very clear image in their minds of where it's going. And as long as they keep writing it and keep producing it, I will keep watching it.
Yeah, because they always have an interesting way to... It never feels like they're just continuing on with like the previous episode. It always starts fresh. Like, even like the third episode, like he's in a drug den or whatever, He's back on the smack or whatever. He's just doing it for a case. But I mean, that's totally not what you would think the show would be doing. You think he would just... just go on continuing the story, the narrative. But it kind of, each episode can exist on its own.
Exactly, which is, I think, the saving grace of this show is that, for the most part, you can drop in, watch any episode of Sherlock, and be 90% up to speed.
Yeah, you might miss a reference or two. To Irene Adler or whatever,
Yeah,
but
the woman.
The woman, yeah. Oh my god. Still, I don't remember the name of that episode, but I think that is still my favorite episode to date.
Study in Pink?
Was that the
Study
very first
in
one?
Scarlet?
That'd be the first episode.
No, Study in Pink. It's, I did know it.
It's not the Hounds of Bakersville.
No, it's like
it's not the...
like something in Belgrave or Belgrave.
Oh, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah.
I might cut this all out. Just cut to the name.
It was season 2, was it not?
It was season 2, yeah.
The Scandal in Belgrave.
That's the one.
Yes.
It was a Scandal in Belgrave.
Yeah, that was still, I think, to this date, my favorite episode. Just
really? I wonder why.
No, it was just so perfectly
it was.
Another misdirection.
It was a fantastic episode.
Just for that last 2 minutes of that episode, it's just phenomenal.
Brilliant. A brilliant send up as well of the stereotypes as well. Like, this woman is in charge for most of the episode.
Yes.
It's not something you see a lot. It's someone, again, it's kind of the Mary type, someone that can keep up with Sherlock, but this one is she has abilities in a completely separate realm to Sherlock, so it's two worlds meshing together.
Yeah.
But that was...
All right, then.
I think we've probably exhausted our audience's attention here.
We will just have to rewatch the 9 episodes until what, 2016?
2016 is probably when it will come out, yeah. I will definitely be watching it before it gets on Netflix.
I will try to make my life matter in the intervening 2 years. I don't have a lot of faith on that, but...
Whatever.
Whatever, yes.
Alright, well, I think that's it from me. How about you, sir?
That's alright. Yeah, I'm good. I'm spent.
Alright, well, I've been Paul.
And I've been Brian.
See you guys.